49ers doing a lot of work on their defensive line in the 2025 offseason. Where are the position battles? What can we expect from this new look group of defensive linemen this season for the San Francisco 49ers? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting ready for the 2025 season. We're going position by position, finishing up the defensive side of the football in today's program, talking defensive line, ends, tackles, fast guys, stout guys, how this group is going to come together. 3 new rookie draft picks that are very much going to be in the mix. And I think it's a really fun group here to preview as we get ready for training camp and where those fun battles will be for the front of the roster and the back of the roster. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first bet wins of $5 at FanDuel. Again, $5 bet wins, you get $150 in bonus bets for new customers. Just check out FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Croc. I want to talk about pass rush. I want to talk about run defense. I want to talk about pass rush grades here. I want to talk about rookie projections. And we've talked a lot about rookie expectations in the recent weeks here leading up to training camp. We're less than a week away from rookies showing up. So hopefully we're going to see a lot of these guys on the football field, some of them a little bit dinged up, like the 49ers second-round pick in Alfred Collins, who's a huge part of this whole mix and how good this team might end up looking. And if we look at the 2025 offseason and how things change from 2024 to 2025, potentially 3 new starters. I would expect 3 new stars on the defensive line at some point in the year. Malik Collins, starting defensive tackle, gone. Javon Hargrave, starting defensive tackle coming in the year, gone. Starting edge rusher across from Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, he's gone. And the 49ers have done a lot of work in bringing guys in. Talking about the NFL draft, Mykel Williams, first-round pick, number 11 overall, defensive end out of the University of Georgia. You bring in Texas, big old defensive tackle in Alfred Collins. 4th-rounder, phenomenal. We've talked about him a lot. One of my favorite picks, C.J. West. I love where they were able to get him in the early 4th-round range of the NFL draft. Would have had no problem with him going in the 3rd-round area. And I think he'll be a contributor for this 49ers team early, potentially even a starter himself. And then they make the move post-draft to bring in Bryce Huff, who looked good in Robert Saleh's defense with the New York Jets. And then just things didn't go quite as planned for him with the Philadelphia Eagles in Vic Fangio's defense. So now he gets to reprise that role for Robert Saleh with the San Francisco 49ers. So they've added a lot of pieces to the defensive line. They've got other pieces as well. We can talk about some incumbent veteran players. But just looking at last year, how they performed, Croc, and seeing that you bring in Robert Saleh, new defensive coordinator, and just clean house, essentially, aside from Nick Bosa on the defensive line, I think they're telling us everything we need to know is whatever was happening before, not good enough. We're even going to eat some salary, and we need a whole new group of defensive linemen. So from that standpoint, Croc, what are your thoughts overall before we get into the individual battles here of the 49ers defensive line and how much they changed in one offseason?
No, I think the big thing for me that really changed, really the way I viewed where they were headed this season was getting Bryce Huff, right? Once I learned a little bit more about him, did a little research, watched him, saw the pass rush win rate. He had the big sack year, the big numbers in that one sack year reaching double digits. But even outside of that, he was someone that was winning a high percentage of his pass rush snaps. Those are the things that got me excited because you drafted the rookie Mykel Williams. You drafted Alfred Collins. Those were guys I knew that could come in immediately and contribute towards stopping the run. But would they ever be more than that? I still think you were going to be looking for that get to the quarterback guy. You hope Mykel Williams develops into that, of course. But if you told me, hey, at pick 11, they drafted somebody that he can give you some pass rush snaps, but man, he is really good versus pass rush. Run stopping almost Eric Armstead. There were a lot of people that didn't care for Armstead early on because, like, well, he's not getting a bunch of sacks. But I'm like, dude's like the best run stopper, and he's so good at that. And you can see how his role, how it impacts the entire defense, being the guy that can go outside and in and give you some pass rush productivity a little bit from the interior. So if you told me Mykel Williams is more so Eric Armstead, maybe not going to be a huge sack guy, but man, he's just, you can see how you need him on the field. Man, I like that for him. But you're still going to need the D4 that they had to go get, right? Like, you're still going to need that guy opposite Nick Bosa. So to get Bryce Huff, I felt like that was something that really made the defensive line as a whole, which is when I'm projecting to be the starting group, the second half of the season, I'm much more confident now that they added Huff as opposed to when they didn't have him. And I'm looking like, got some youth and I like it. But who's going to bring that pressure alongside Nick Bosa?
Man, I totally agree. You kind of start to see the vision a little bit. And when you pair Mykel Williams, big power, defensive end, 6'5", 270 pounds, you can play some inside even. And he was asked to do that at Georgia, and just a power player and technically sound against the run. Work in progress as a pass rusher, but you kind of see it from different spots. And you pair him with the speed rusher of Bryce Huff, and it's like, who cares? Like, I don't care if you're on the field on first down or second down. Be on the field on third down, right? And when you pair Mykel Williams and his strengths with Bryce Huff and his strengths, you have an all-pro defensive end. It's just split between two players, right? So and again, we're projecting a rookie to be very good at everything he was already very good at. I expect him to be that in the NFL. But and then you across from a guy who is all-pro in Nick Bosa. So I do like that aspect of it. Hopefully everyone's healthy and plays to the standard that we expect them to play with those defensive end spots. And you have two full-time starters and three players, kind of with the way that all lays out. But until Bryce Huff showed up, and I'm still, a lot to be determined on the defensive interior for the 49ers and the pass rush there, because Javon Hargrave, that's why he was brought in, right? And for various reasons didn't quite match up to what that money he earned from the 49ers was as a free agent. It was not quite as impactful as everyone hoped. But when you draft a 5-sack defensive end in the first round, a 1-sack defensive tackle, a 2-sack defensive tackle in the fourth round, right? Very good run defenders, but it's like, okay, cool. And we got to talk about, we can't talk all pass rush here either with the defensive linemen. So you got to stop the run first, which was a problem for the 49ers last year. When you look at that, it's like, okay, but where's the pass rush? And then it was just like the meal wasn't complete yet. A little seasoning there with the Bryce Huff. It's like, okay, I can see how this can kind of start to come together. I see the vision, and I can't wait to see how it comes to fruition on the football field for the 49ers in the upcoming 2025 season. We got to talk camp battles, Croc, and some of the expectations and how we see these players, what we're looking for when camp and preseason games come around in very short period of time here for the 49ers next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, and summer sports in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, how about walk-off inside the park, home runs, always fun. Golf on the green. I know Croc's been hitting the driving range this week. I got a big couple. I'm gonna play back-to-back golf. Maybe the first time in my life, 2 days in a row. I never get to do the thing where I always see people go out playing 36 holes. Getting off topic here for a second, Croc, but like I've never done that where I play 36 holes in a day or just go for a weekend and go on a trip and like back-to-back golf. I'm gonna play back-to-back golf this weekend, 2 days in a row. It's a rarity. So I'm looking forward to that. If you want to bet on golf, if you want to get involved on any of the soccer action happening around the world, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. And even after first pitch, you can get involved in games that are already going on, and you want to bet on that comeback. Live in-game parlays. You sense a tide turning, and of course, every single line is already up every week for the NFL season. Tons of futures. Bet on the Niners to win the Super Bowl. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. All you got to do is open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com FanDuel.com to get started. You know, Croc, is that a new hat to go with the new jerseys for Stag State, Stag High School football? I'm pumped for the season.
Yeah, I should have did a jersey reveal on the show. You know me, I had to come in and switch some things up, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the Stag State. Stag State. They adopted that nickname in the 80s, and I was bold enough to actually put that on the uniform. So, but a lot of the Stag alumni were really excited about seeing that.
Love that. Be bold, Croc. New head coach of Stag High, Stockton, California. It's going to be a tough ticket. I can't wait to go watch your team perform. Love the hat. Might have to get me one of those. The 49ers, I think, are going to start revealing some new things, maybe a new helmet. I just saw the same helmet too, by the way. So a future episode of this podcast, we're going to have to start breaking down some of the new looks. The Saints going all white with the helmets. Have you seen this yet, Croc?
I wasn't a fan of, I don't know if it's something with the all white and then that light gold. There was something where I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I can envision it with their all white uniforms. And I was like, you maybe put it all together and look a little bit better, but
white out.
The helmet alone wasn't quite a fan of it.
I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of that with the alternate helmets around the league, just going all white or all black for a lot of teams, which is like, come on, let's see some imagination here, teams. So it remains to be seen what the 49ers changes will exactly look like, an unveiling, I'm sure, no doubt coming. This is the
isn't that what we were expecting during, like, I think it was right before the schedule release.
They teased it, right?
Kind of teasing, like these different colors and this color and that. Was it just the change with some of the logo? And are they kind of using these different color palettes? Or are they trying to show us like, no, we got some new uniforms coming or a different helmet?
Yeah. There's something coming, and it could drop any second. If the Saints are doing it, I'm sure some other teams are going to start dropping some stuff as well. So be on the lookout for that, and let us know what you think in the YouTube comments. Subscribe while you're there when you see it, and we'll no doubt be covering it here on the podcast. Defensive line, Croc. We talked about the first rounder, Mykel Williams. I was kind of late coming around to him in the draft process. First pass, I was like, okay, solid first round guy, maybe not quite pick 11. Went back and watched it through, and when you started to watch all the players, and then you saw where the 49ers were in the draft, who might be available, started to make a lot more sense. And he's a player that I have high hopes for the 49ers, both short and long term. And I think he'll be out there play week one as at least a good run defender as an NFL player. And I think there's a lot more as a pass rusher, not only moving him inside, which a lot of people talk about, but just as a pure defensive end. I think we underrate how important being a power rusher can be in the NFL versus a guy who's just running around people in the college level, because it's just so hard to do that at the NFL level, no matter the position. You don't just go get clean instant sacks in the NFL running around the corner. You don't get to be a running back and just not have a dirty uniform at the end of the game running around people. You have to play dirty at wide receiver, catch contested catches, smaller windows. You have to throw to smaller windows as a quarterback, right? So like you have to be able to win dirty in the NFL. And Mykel Williams, I think, can do that. So that's why I'm excited about him. Then you got the speed element with Bryce Huff. Beyond
about all the guys who we watched pre-draft in whatever years you guys want to go back to, the last 10 years, the guys that were just these pure speed edge rushers. One, where did they get drafted? So I think the NFL is telling you they agree, right? Harold Landry, how high was everybody on him as just a pass rusher? And to see him go in this second round. And there's been a lot of other guys, right? Like Dallas Cowboys just drafted one out of Boston College. Like there's a lot of these guys that look like, oh man, speed, dip, bend. But if you don't have that power element to your game, the NFL, the timing is so good that these guys and tackles are super athletic at the NFL level. They're long, they're athletic. You're not just going to win consistently around the edge. You're going to have to go through guys. The fastest path to the quarterback, or the shortest path, will always be straight through the lineman. So to get a guy like Mykel, where, hey, I got this strength, and watch him, develop a bull rush and be able to play with strength. I mean, Jared Verse, why did he have so much success as a rookie? Was he just, oh man, I'm so fast and bendy around this edge? Hell nah. He was long arming guys and pushing them straight back and then using a move off of that. So Mykel is made up of the good stuff, where I think the NFL is kind of really going, even with some of their pass rushers.
No doubt. That's all he had He was defensive rookie of the year, and all he had was a bull rush. If I'm the 49ers coaching staff, I'm like, watch Jared Verse, watch old Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith was all about his long arms and his power. He was going through offensive tackles, and they were winning on stunts where Justin Smith was kind of helping him out and holding up two blockers so Aldon could come around, right? I would start there and then develop from the power that he already possesses because he's the closest.
But what about Reggie White? Like, he was so freakish, but can you tell someone, hey, go back and watch Reggie White and just watch how he just clubs these guys and they go flying.
Maybe you have Alfred Collins watch Reggie White because Reggie White was 290 pounds. And that's a different kind of freak where you're like, hey, do me a favor, knock this other 330-pound guy off of his feet with your club move. I don't know if you can teach that one, but I
did that consistently too. One of the more maybe underrated defensive linemen in the NFL history, because I feel like we talk about a lot of other guys, and Reggie White is kind of that guy who we know dominated for years, but I don't think he. If you were just to ask our audience right now, before mentioning Reggie White, best defensive lineman that you've ever seen,
right,
you're going to hear some other names before you get to Reggie White, and I feel like he should be closer to the top.
Yeah, no, I would say it's hard to say that Reggie White's underrated, but if you don't bring him up in the first three names, then he's underrated because maybe he's number one. Yeah. Let's finish up the defensive ends here before we get to I think the best camp. Like, we got a lot of good camp battles here on the defensive side of the ball, but I think the best is the defensive interior because I think it's easier to project what should happen now, whether that will happen or not at defensive end a little bit better. But the 49ers also have Yetur Gross-Matos coming back, another big end that is kind of a similar stylistic player to Mykel Williams, and that's the most direct competition where you better be able to go beat out as a top 11 pick. You better be able to go beat out Yetur Gross-Matos. And so we might start to have some problems if Yetur Gross-Matos is the one that, and I don't care about the first reps and the first practices, maybe YGM is out there, but you got to be better than that because that's what the 49ers are trying to improve upon is what they had out there last year. And I'm looking at the pass rush win rates, and Leonard Floyd actually is not that high on the list. He ended up collecting a lot of sacks, but I think just from an efficiency standpoint on defense, the 49ers not only can get a lot better defending the run, but I just think as a pass rush group, even talking about rookies out there, Leonard Floyd, the way I'm looking at PFF right now, the way the PFF grades sacks or totals sacks is they don't count half sacks, and Leonard Floyd had a lot of half sacks last year, so they credit him with 11 sacks because if you get a half sack, you get a full sack at PFF. But I believe he had 8 or 8.5 sacks was his total last year. His pass rush grade was only 53.9. It was like behind Jordan Elliott and behind Yetur Gross-Matos and behind Sam Okwuonu, who's another guy who's been a nice little depth find for the San Francisco 49ers at the defensive end position. So, key backups, Sam Okwuonu and Yetur Gross-Matos, and I'm just not really sure if there's much opportunity for anybody else to win a job at the defensive end position right now for the 49ers because you got Mykel Williams, Yetur Gross-Matos, Bryce Huff. That's 3. They're pretty well locked in unless someone really, Sam Okwuonu, I think he's pretty locked in too with Nick Bosa. That's 5 right there. How many pure ends are they going to keep? Robert Beal might be on the chopping block. You got Jonathan Garvin and Tyron Jackson. Those are the only other names. So Robert Beal might need an injury to even make the roster or have proven to have a really big bump and development to beat out someone like Okwuonu or Yetur Gross-Matos. And right now I'm not betting on it. So I really think we kind of know what this defensive end group is going to look like.
Yeah. Robert Beal is, we talked about breakout players. You would hope that he could break out, man. This is a guy that had freakish ability, but I always had questions about him because where did Mykel Williams go to school? Can you remind me where he went to school?
Mykel Williams went to Georgia.
All right. So Georgia. So they had another defensive lineman, Walker. Where did he go to school?
Jalen Walker went to the University of Georgia.
All right. And where did those guys get drafted? Was it the first round?
First round picks, both in the top half of the first round.
All good defensive linemen for Georgia get drafted first round. You are the most freakish of all of them. Why are you going in the 5th round? I always thought that was odd.
Yeah, and a 5-star guy too, right? Like the Georgia, if you're not at least a 4-star, you can't go play D-line in Georgia.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Special teams is important. And he may develop into just being a core special teamer. So yeah, we're mentioning him with the rest of the defensive line, but his niche may just be, hey, I'm big, I'm fast. And when I run down on kickoff, there's guys that are 6'1", 200 pounds like Eric Crocker who have to try to block me. You can't block me because I'm too big, fast. I'm coming with too much mass moving in that direction. So maybe that's his thing, man. He'd just be a great special teamer.
Yeah, probably Eric Crocker, not a great example because we know how much you cared about special teams back in your day. So, but
I need a lot more.
But it's a great lesson too, because hey, drafted this good athlete, that doesn't mean they're going to develop into this maximum thing that you think their height, weight, speed should make them be. There's a lot more to playing football than just being, a great athlete. And 49ers have a couple of those guys that are interesting. Robert Beal's going to have to battle for a roster spot. And look, even though he's played some special teams, there's a new special teams coordinator in town. So, that's not a given for him to be like, oh, I'm a special teams guy and I'm locked into a roster spot. And we will talk more about him, but undrafted wide receiver, Isaiah Nair, freak athlete again. But it's like, how come? Like 3 different colleges. How come you haven't seen it? So a little bit more difficult for me to project that if a guy has that much ability and hasn't shown it through 5 college seasons. Defensive tackle. This is where the battle begins in camp on the defensive line for the San Francisco 49ers. Some vets that aren't going to give up those spots easily, with a couple of potentially high impact rookies next. I will be looking out for big number 99 and big number 95. And now that Drake Jackson was released post-draft, I believe in rookie minicamp, which is why I was confused about the numbers situation. Alfred Collins was wearing 99. And in fact, I have a photograph of him wearing number 99, so I know it happened. He was wearing 99. He switched to 95 after Drake Jackson was released. So 2nd round pick, big old 6'6", 330-pound defensive tackle, Alfred Collins. He was only he wasn't even wearing anything. He didn't have a helmet on because he wasn't practicing in the spring due to an injury. Some people pointed out there's a group of 2nd rounders there's like a guarantees thing that a lot of players haven't signed yet. I don't think that was any part of the reason, because every other player except for Shamar Stewart had been practicing for their teams, even if they weren't signed and their rookie contracts weren't figured out yet. But the league has to figure out with those 2nd rounders what they're going to be doing. But Alfred Collins, not yet on the field for the 49ers in a practice role. It's not expected to keep him out in camp. So hopefully he is there day 1 of camp, wearing number 95 now. And then 99 will belong to CJ West. It's a great number 99 for CJ West, being a stout interior defensive tackle, maybe more there as a pass rusher as well. But these guys combined, I think, had 3 sacks last year. So these draft picks, and you might hope that they are able to get upfield and get after the quarterback a little bit more in their NFL careers. But to be honest with you, these picks and Mykel Williams along with them, the 49ers had to fix their run defense from last year. And they just flat out weren't good. They were bottom of the league as a run defending team. And we got Fred Warner out there. It should be a lot better, right? So Malik Collins gone. Javon Hargrave gone. And in our 2 new rookies, the 2nd rounder in Alfred Collins, Croc, the 4th rounder in CJ West, they'll be competing most directly. And this is going to be a good competition, because I'm imagining the first reps are going to go to Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens in that sort of, one tech, 2-eye, nose, whatever you want to call it, spot, and then more of the 3 technique role for Kevin Givens. They'll probably get the first reps in camp. Can the young guys wrestle those jobs away this season or right away in camp?
I like that they didn't just sit on their pockets with this one, right? Like, this is the team that said, you know what, we see a deficiency on our team. We have to get better at it. We have to improve at it. And we're going to throw a lot of resources at it. So the 3 defensive linemen, you include Mykel Williams in that, because he will, I'm assuming, play a little bit of 3 tech. But man, Alfred Collins, CJ West, getting those 2 guys who are 2 of the better run stoppers in really all of college football. And why? A reason why you're able to even get guys like that, because people don't value that high, like high in the draft. They want the guys that give you that pass rush productivity as well. But if you say, you know what, man, we're really weak in this one area, we need to improve on it. You go out and you get those two guys. I think you should be really happy about that. I'm just curious to see how they compete against some of the veterans, right? Like they're just, you never want to downplay what a veteran can give you. So guys like, Jordan Elliott, I do believe that in the perfect world, maybe he's just not your day one starter and you would like it to be one of your rookies. But having a guy like Jordan Elliott come in and be a starter, I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that's what will definitely, ultimately happen between him. Kevin Givens is a guy who I've been just a huge fan of for just what he is. We were talking about this off air, right? Like when we watch a guy, like, don't try to tell me he's something that he's not. But once I can accept what someone is, I appreciate them for that. So Kevin Givens, he's listed as a starter right now. I don't anticipate that being the case. I think the 49ers understand exactly what and who he is. I definitely do. Not a guy I think is going to be some huge difference maker. But one thing I've always noticed with him, when he gets opportunities in there, he makes the most of it. He does a really good job of doing the most with the reps that he gets. And as an alternate pass rusher or run stopper, having him in, a guy needs a breather. I think he really excels in that role, is in probably one of the more underrated defensive linemen on the 49ers. I say underrated, but again, right now he's listed as a starter, even though we know that may not be the case. But I like what he brings to the table. So you start kind of throwing in guys, and if they're able to be more of spell guys as opposed to the main guy, that means that the rookies are taking steps in the right direction, and that's a big time plus for the 49ers.
Yeah, and just what given skill set is, he should be that. And hopefully the rookies are able to make the 49ers coaching staff okay with that, and he can kind of keep his same role, right? And I feel like Sam Okuanu is kind of becoming a little bit of that same guy where it's like, yeah, okay, you love having him at the back of the roster. You hope you don't have to be starting him. And that's how I feel about Kevin Givens. Really good player, comes in with high effort and better pass rusher than a run defender. And in fact, I'm looking at the PFF grades again, run defense grades, and he's all the way at the bottom. The very last graded run defender on the 49ers defense from last year, 38.4 grade, well, which is not great.
Kevin Givens?
Kevin Givens, yeah. And so, and he's not the biggest guy in the world either, so you see why. But active as a pass rusher, he's got a solid pass rush grade. So that is his, that is his role on the team. Ideally, is he's not the early down run defender. He is someone that comes in, gives you a spark, gives you some effort off the bench in a rotational role. Maybe helps out with the pass rush if those guys are able to earn jobs and are high level run defenders earlier in their career. And then you would point to someone like Jordan Elliott, who's a bigger bodied guy, and maybe you would think more of that nose tackle role. He doesn't have a good run grade either. In fact, the entire 49ers defensive run grades are pretty awful.
Well, it only makes sense because they were terrible against the run last year.
Malik Collins, bad. Kalia Davis, we'll talk about, fighting for a roster spot. Bad. Yetur Gross-Matos, he's a power end. Bad run defense grade. I mean, all of these guys. So Leonard Floyd, bad run grade, defense grade. Beal.
That aligns, though. I will say this because, PFF isn't the end all be all, right? It's not Bible, but it aligns with what most people are seeing, which regardless of who is out there, the 49ers run defense was bad.
In fact, the only players that had, like, if you're looking at, and PFF does it kind of color coded, and 70 is actually a pretty good grade for PFF. It's not like Madden where you got to be a 90 or else you're not that good. The ones that are started kind of shaded green a little bit: Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, and Greenlaw only played a couple games. So basically, the guys who played a lot of football games for the 49ers last year, or more than like 3 games: Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Tayshaun Gibson in his 5 games, Isaac Yiadom. In fact, Isaac Yiadom is the next highest graded after Nick Bosa. Malik Mustafa, Deommodore Lenoir, Talanoa Hufanga. Those are like the only defenders that had decent run defense grades, according to, again, it's, you kind of have the eyeball test and you filter it through PFF and see if things line up, and when they do, and that's kind of how it lines up. And yeah, so they needed a lot of change. And obviously Greenlaw gone as well. So we talked about that competition at linebacker yesterday. you got to be better with the run defense. They got a lot of guys who on paper should be very good run defenders. Will they be that early in their career? That's the opportunity, I think, for CJ West. And I think CJ West could potentially week one be a better run defender than Jordan Elliott or Kevin Givens. And I think that if you draft the top 50 defensive lineman in Alfred Collins, you expect him to be better. And the other thing I'm going to be looking for, Croc, with those two rookies specifically, I think it's easier to understand like what CJ West is, and he'll probably be that nose type of player. Can Alfred Collins, because when Alfred Collins was drafted before they went into day 3, before they had taken CJ West, I think most people were like a 330-pound, massive, powerful guy. This is going to be their run defending defensive tackle, 1 sack last year. I think they think he could be more of the 3-tech side of things. Can he be that? And where will they be lining these guys up and expecting them to win jobs? So that's one of the big things with a new player. How does the team see him? What position are they actually lining up at? Is it CJ West at the nose, the 1-tech at the 2, whatever it is, next to the 3-tech of Alfred Collins? I'll be interested to see that. And what does Alfred Collins' pass rush move look like? Does he look like he'd be a player that is going to be on the field, even if he's a better run defender? Is he going to be on the field on 3rd downs, or is it going to be Kevin Givens if Kevin Givens doesn't earn the starting job? So that's what I'll be looking for when camp begins, is where they're even lining up first before they start trying to win jobs. And on top of that, is he lining up? Is he healthy? We got to see this guy on the field, Craig.
Got to see him on the field. Yeah, I think that is the key thing right there. Where do they line up? Those two guys, specifically CJ West and Alfred Collins.
And to answer the question that is on the background of this video, can 3 rookies start on the 49ers defensive line? I think by midway through the season, it would be even a disappointment, Croc, for me, and maybe for the 49ers, and maybe John Lynch, if Mykel Williams, CJ West, and Alfred Collins aren't all starting on the 49ers defensive line. So can 3 rookies start? Yes. Will 3 rookies start? That's the camp battles that I can't wait to watch. Thank you so much, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We didn't talk that much about the back of the roster at defensive tackle, but clearly when it comes to Kalia Davis, Evan Anderson, I'd probably put Evan Anderson ahead of Kalia Davis there for that 5th defensive tackle spot, especially when you consider that Mykel Williams, Yetur Gross-Matos, some of these guys can also move in and rush from the interior. I don't know how many defensive tackles you need to keep if everyone's healthy. Evan Anderson, he can play that role. Evan Anderson could potentially start at that nose spot for the 49ers. Like, he could be that guy. Like, I liked what I saw from him as an undrafted player for the 49ers. So don't count him out. Kalia Davis going to be battling for a roster spot there. Sebastian Valdez, the other guy, going to be battling for that last spot on the roster if you keep a maximum of probably 5 pure defensive tackles for the San Francisco 49ers. So let us know what you think. At BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky. Drop a comment on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. And Croc and I back tomorrow, continuing to break down position by position, previewing camp. And then next week, camp will be here. Rookies will report. And we'll have it all covered for you right here. Locked On 49ers.